Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We're continuing to go over a masterclass. We're now shifting to chapter 2, which is written by Mark Olson after having spent some time on the strategic vision from Moshe. And so this chapter is very long with a lot of description and that sort of thing, and not really that many positions to look at. They had 15 at the end, but this was whereas Michi spent a lot of time on positions explaining the points that he made. This one, there's a lot of narrative and not that many positions to illustrate the narrative, other than at kind of at certain points at kind of a basic level. Okay, what's a priming game look like? What's a attacking game, blitzing game, and that sort of thing. So, which makes it very difficult for me anyway to prepare a lesson where I like to look at positions and that illustrate the concepts being taught, and so it was very hard to do that with this particular chapter. I do consider one of the more important chapters, and for those of you trying to advance from either beginner to intermediate or to a intermediate to a more advanced player. So you have to really understand and the idea, and it's called game plan dynamics. So you really need to understand what your game plan is, and that will rule out a lot of plays that might look reasonable. Now in this on the spreadsheet, I summarized some of the important points that I got from reading the chapter. I'm not really going to go over them here. I'll make them available. Anyone that wants, actually, this can have it. It will be on my the OneDrive where I have all the videos and this sort of stuff, and then I can send it to anyone who wants it. But this is not something that I would. Well, I guess you could take it and memorize it. I didn't find it that helpful in terms of wanting to memorize any of this stuff and trying to apply it. And so part of it is that the topic that we're covering. Well, it's very broad. It's very important. But it's also complex. It certainly doesn't lend itself to kind of the proverbs, say, that Michi was good at identifying, or even some of the basic logic. There always seem to be extenuating circumstances in a lot of these positions. So what I'm going to do is a number of things. One is I'm going to go through a lot of positions, and we'll spend 3 or 4 sessions just going on positions and trying to look at, identify, first of all, what's the game plan that we have, what's our opponent's game plan. One of the good proverbs, not really proverb, but statements there is play your best game plan, and not the one that your opponent is strong. So you want to look at sometimes what the move that you make from your game plan is obvious and what you should do. And sometimes it's not. You don't have the right role to make anything constructive out of it. And so you want to look at what your opponent's game plan is and not play into his game plan. And this is, we saw a lot of this in the strategic vision, where we're looking at attacking versus priming structures that are barely formed. So if our opponent is attacking, we don't want to split necessarily. If he's priming, we do want to split. So situations like that, but it gets it doesn't. I guess it doesn't lend itself to the proverbs and trying to analyze, memorize all the proverbs and trying to figure out which ones work or don't work. So, anyway, what we're going to do is 2 things. One, we're going to look at a lot of issues where game plan is kind of a key factor, and then look at all the factors that come into that. And then I'm also going to spend some time covering something that's it's not in the book, but I thought it was a good time to do it. There are certain topics that, ways to play a priming game that you need to know, and as an attacking game that you need to know. And so we'll look at that. And then for contact hole games, there are things like, when do you break your anchor? If you have to leave a shot, do you pay now or play later? Things like that. So we'll take some sessions and cover those. So this is, again, anyone that wants this, I can send you the spreadsheet. It'll be available in my OneDrive. If you want to just take it, that's fine. But we're not going to really refer to this too much. Okay, so I did a lot of the positions. It's not one I wanted to look at, actually. This is what I want to look at. This one actually comes from the master class, but a lot of the positions come from actually some things that prepared by Phil Simborg. He's the Backgammon Learning Center. So yeah, if you're interested in taking individual lessons, I'll give him a plug for, since I used some of his materials here. Get a hold of Phil, and he can set you up with someone. But anyway, so these are I think better examples than what we had in the masterclass book. So we'll be going over a lot of those. So let's just start with this one is actually from the masterclass book. And so a couple of things we want to do is identify. So we have obviously we have a role, we have a move to make, and the first step is what is our game plan here? What are we trying to do? And so what do you think? How would you characterize it?
Racing.
Yeah, it's racing. Actually, this is I've heard different people characterize situations in different ways, but so you could say that this is a racing game plan, but it's not it's not a flat out race because black has an anchor. So you could also call it a holding game. Typically this would be a holding game. Black's game plan is what Mark also would call contact. So holding game is when you have these anchors that you're trying to clear. So really black has got the anchor, but the holding games are generally racing games with some contact. So yeah, this is effectively a racing game for white. What's black's game plan?
Build his board and then hit a shot.
Right. Black, yeah, and Mark also called this the contact game plan. It's basically black is down 34 pips in the race. Black is not likely to win the race, although I'm sure we've all seen our opponents roll double six twice, and then what was once a safe race is now a double in a pass because we're not safely ahead anymore. We're back far behind. But yeah, black's game plan is to hit. There's an outside chance he'll get some big rolls and catch up in the race, but it's not likely. And for that matter, white could get the big doubles too. So yeah, so white is effectively racing, doesn't want to get hit. Black is going to hang around, build his board, and look for the hit. And if black gets the hit, and if black has built his board, black will win. And it's highly favorable to white. If you remember, when we looked at the cube decisions on this, basically midpoint holding game, we had the rule of 4, and when we saw that basically white in this situation had a 75% or so advantage in situations like this. So okay, so now that we've identified plans, what's the best play with the double twos?
I would think to clear the midpoint.
Yeah, so 4 down. Okay, yeah, and why is that?
It's easier to clear the midpoint when you can clear the midpoint and then just bring in indirects after if you have, when you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly right. Our game is racing, pretty much, and we just have to not get hit. Black's game plan is contact, so anytime we can reduce contact, we go right by. And this in particular is a good spot because once we're done here, we can now float checkers into the inner board or land them on the 8-point, and we have a lot of rolls to do that. And if we get down to something like, I can do it, but if we get down to we have to leave a blot out here on the 11-point. We're not leaving a direct shot. We're leaving 3-4s and 5-2. We're leaving 6 numbers, but that's a whole lot better than a direct shot, which is 11 numbers. So again, all that speaks to our game plan is racing, and don't play into your opponent's plan, which is hitting. So get by that, get by his anchor there. Okay, let's look at a variation of this. Okay, same double twos, same formation for white. Black, however, is much different. So what's this? What's the strategy here?
He's ahead in the race. I guess you might want to block him a little bit more, maybe make the 9-point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key thing. White is now down in the race after the roll, he's down 3, which is not terrible, but the strategy is different. Black is no longer Black is playing something of a contact game plan, but since Black is up in the race, he can also race, and he may make a run for it with the big number at some point. Certainly with any type of doubles to get him out, he's going there. So now, we're not looking to play safely, although we are, because we don't want to get hit here. But our game plan is not strictly racing; it's also blocking. It's also priming. So now, if we come down to the 9-point, we're blocking his 5s. So double 5s don't get him out. We also get more landing points. Because at some point Black is going to be forced out. Don't know exactly when, but he's going to bring these last 2 checkers in and maybe break his board. But at some time he'll get a 6 or something that forces him to come out. And when that happens, first of all, we want to block him, block the 5s, forcing him to come in. Now after this roll, double 5s is a killer for Black. Whereas double 5s is a winner if you don't have that point. But gives us more landing spots. It gives us more spares to attack Black if he tried to make a run for it. So all those are, game plan oriented decisions. And there are a lot of simplistic ideas. You're not really simplistic. They're good ideas. But when the adage, if you're ahead in the race, you race, and if you're not ahead in the race, you don't race. In fact, if you're behind in the race, priming is probably the best strategy in a lot of cases. So here's a case where, we're going to go for the prime. Whereas in the previous example, we didn't go for the prime. We went for the race. We don't need the prime. Okay. Let's look at some more. All right, 4-1 to play. What do we do here? What's our game plan, and what are we looking at?
We're ahead in the race and we don't want to get hit. We don't want to lose ground. Maybe make the bar point.
Mm-hmm. And so, we are ahead in the race. We could make the bar point. What's the bar point?
7-point.
Well, yeah, but what's okay? So let's look at it in terms of strategy here, of game plan. And we can piggyback a little bit off of the strategic vision from the last chapter. What's our formation? Well, is it priming or racing? I'm sorry, priming or
It's not priming.
It's blitzing.
Blitzing, yes, thank you. Yeah, we're blitzing because we've made this point, the 2 point. So so that's a strategy. And your point is we're ahead in the race of the idea to play safe. That's true. There's also a concept that I think we went over a little bit a couple of books ago, which is bold safe. The idea of bold safe, that was a McGrail concept. And the idea with bold safe is that, well, yeah, a couple of things. If you have the stronger board, you can play more boldly, which would mean hit. If you have the weaker board, you want to play more safely. It also said, this is where these concepts get work at sort of cross purposes. If you're ahead in the race, generally you want to race rather than hit. So here we have a case where we could hit, but we are ahead in the race, and if we get hit, then we're suddenly behind in the race. On the other hand, we have the better board. We have an anchor. That was part of it too. If we have an anchor, we can play a little more boldly. Black has nothing in his board, so we don't. If we do get hit, it's not like we're going to spend a lot of time on the bar. So where does that leave us? Which of these work out better for us? What should we do here? So yeah, so I said let's look at the plays. Okay, so we could make the bar point, and that's what kind of strategy is that? Well, we made a 3 prime, so that's a kind of a priming strategy. But is priming really going to work, given that we've made the 2 point? Yeah, not really. We could hit. It's almost always right to hit off the 5 point early in the game. So if we do that, what's our 4?
Could hit off the ace point, but
hit the 1.
Yeah, 5, that one. Yeah. Well, there's 2 on the bar. That's pretty strong. This is a case where Michi had a proverb on this one. Anyone remember it? With the tiger play.
It's how many men you have in the.
Yeah. Attacking with 8 checkers is weak. Attacking with 10 checkers is strong. And so early on, when you had the chance for the double hit, the tiger play, whether you did or not was on your usually the second or third roll was depending on whether you had 8 checkers in the zone or and if you only had 8, you didn't. But if you generally had 9 or certainly 10, you would. So here's a case where we've got 10 checkers in the zone.
Isn't that really 9.5 according to some people's writings?
Yeah. Well, I would call this 10 because it's 9.5 if we had this point. So this one doesn't contribute to making an inner board point.
Okay.
But in this case, I would call it 10. I think that's generally the rule people use.
Okay. But if you double hit here, aren't you really like setting yourself up for the likelihood of losing the loose checker, the blot on the ace point, and then losing ground? I mean, there's only 5s for direct covers, 7s, 10s, or whatever they are, 12s, 5, 7s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the question is that enough? If you let's count the rolls that cover it. Direct sixes there. There's 11. I'm sorry, fives. There's 11 fives, 3, 2, and 4, 1. So that's 15. And sevens, 3, 4 is 17. 6, 1 is 19. Tens, double 5, 6, 4. That's 21. So, and then 12s, you got double threes and double sixes
And fours.
and double fours.
Right.
So So you have 21 plus 3 is 24 rolls. So 2/3 of the rolls covered. So
on
that's
your
actually,
next opportunity.
on the next chance, yeah. So
Right.
that's off, that's actually quite a lot actually to cover. So okay. Any
Is there any validity to hitting off of the 5 point and stripping the midpoint a little bit and bringing one down to the 9?
hitting?
Just asking, I don't know. Bringing one down, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's something good to be said for this. We're sliding a point that we want. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 builders that will cover it. The question is, well, what did we give up by doing that? So now we've given up. Well, if we just had the ace, black needs an ace to come in. So that's 11 direct shots. Here we've got 11 fives, 4, 1, and 3, 2. That's 15, and then 3, 4, and 4, 4. So that's 8. We're giving up 18 shots, and not to mention 4, 5, 3, 6,
right,
and 5, 6. So
5, 6.
So yeah, so that's a whole lot of numbers. And that's the problem with that.
Could a play like that work if you're like really down in a match and you kind of got to go for it?
I guess sometimes, but it's compared to the alternatives. This play is a very aggressive attacking play and extremely risky.
Okay.
And so, yeah, is it too risky is the reward worth the payoff? With all those hits that return shots, I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
At any score. So okay, so let's look at the answer here. And it is a double hit. And that is a very aggressive play. It's very often right to do the double hit because you've got fewer return shots, and it's very often right when you've got the 10 checkers in the zone. And so here it's there are a lot of kind of I would say there are kind of secondary factors that you have to evaluate that come into play. So one is you're up in the race, so that tends to tell you to attack more than prime. We have a blitzing structure, so that's kind of part of it. We can double hit, and we've got 10 in the zone, so that that adds to it. And so now another thing too is here's a case where the score may matter. If we look at this, this is not the most winning play. This is 56% wins. The priming game is 57% wins. So if we are if it's a DMP game, the safer play is actually better by a little bit. But in ordinary play, so for gameplay, if gammons didn't matter, then the safer play is better. There are more wins. But when you have, when gammons matter, which usually they do now, you need to be aware of that, but you want to go for the gammon. The gammons here are, 20% versus 13, versus, a 1% less winning chance. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, same roll. Different situation though. So now we can go and look at all the things that mattered that we talked about before and see if they're the same. So let's talk about the double hit, the tiger play. Okay, we still have, Michi's proverb was attacking with 10 is strong, attacking with 8 is weak. So we still have 10 in the zone, so that still tells you to do that, to do the tiger play. But what about the bold safe criteria? Well, now Black has a better board. Black has a 3-point board. Now we have an anchor, so it's not. We should be able to come in, but Black has the better board. That would tell us, well, let's not play that aggressively. Let's look at the race. Now we're down in the race. So if we do hit here, obviously Black will put 2 in the bar and he'll go back in the race a little bit, but he's only going back 2 checkers in our home board. So that's 6 pips. That's not a lot. So this says this is not a major criteria, but if you're behind in the race, generally priming is better. If you're ahead in the race, attacking is going to be better. Other things being equal, obviously there are a lot of factors on it. So what do we think? Do we change our play? Do we do the double hit, or do we maybe make the bar point here?
Make the bar point.
Yeah. In this case, it's making the bar point much better. Now look, our position is a lot weaker. It's a 50-50 game. So we were at like 58% before. This play is lower in gammons. This is still a lot higher in gammons for us, but our opponent's gammons now are much higher. Obviously, now giving up that direct shot could be pretty bad for us. And also, we're in the midst of we're in a pretty much blitzing mode, which means and to do that effectively, we need to hit loose and make points and take risks. At some point in the time, and while we have 10 checkers in the zone, that's not it's not 11, it's not 12. I mean, we could be in a stronger position than that. So, and we have these 2 checkers that we really can't get into the game for a while, and even those down from the midpoint, we're not going to get those into the blitz for a while. So all this tends to lead to, okay, now we should be priming here rather than attacking. And again, it's a combination of factors. You look at the bold safe criteria, you look at our formation and other things, and those tend to steer you in the right direction. All right. Another 4-1 to play. So first thing, obviously, we're going to make our 5-point. That should be clear. And now we can make it one of 2 ways. We can either do 9-5 or 6-5, or we can do 9-5 and 6-5. And so the question is, if we do one, what do we do with the other checker? So we have either a 4 to play or an ace to play. So let's look at, okay, what's our game plan? What's our opponent's game plan here? So what's our game plan?
Priming.
Yeah, we have, well, yeah, we have a, yeah, we have a good priming structure to start with. You know, we also have, you know, priming is probably our best primary game plan here. We also have some attacking potential later on because we've got a good distribution of spares and you know, checkers in the zone. Okay, but what's our opponent's game plan?
Blitzing.
That's
Blitzing.
Yeah, blitzing. Yeah, he's got nothing. No, you know, no prime. He's got brought one checker down. So what, you know, whenever you're in a position, what does that tell us to do with our, say, our back checker?
Leave him back there.
Yeah, we don't want to bring him up to where we can get attacked. So it's, yes, leaving him back there. So so then what can we do? So that should tell us, okay, we're going to leave him back. Now we can do 4 to 1 to cover. We can do 4 down and 1 to cover. We can do 4 and put 2 checkers on the 5 point.
I personally bring 1 down and cover with 6 to 5.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take a look. And that's right. This is also just as good. And yeah, bringing back checker up is an error, not too bad, but an error. The advantage to this play is, you know, an extra checker in the zone, and we've still got these spares to play. We're better off, and this is probably better because we have a better chance to make this bar point now. Whereas here, you know, we don't, you know, we brought our spares beyond the point that we'd like to make, so makes it a little bit weird. As you can see, it doesn't make that much of a difference here. This is basically the same, but we have here and increased our potential for making another inner board point.
Right, but the 7 is more valuable than the 4.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in this case, it's because it makes the prime. Yeah. But keep in mind, in general, though, the 4 is more valuable than the 7. But right. In this case, because we can make a 5 prime out of it, then it is. Yeah. And so, yeah. Okay. So that was fairly simple. But let's change it a little bit. What if we have this case?
This is way different. I think you move up from 24 to 20, 6 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And why is that?
Well, the opponent is pretty stripped in his outfield. He's going to have to give up something to hit you.
Yeah.
Off the 20 point, unless he rolls perfectly. And time to think about leaving there. Plus, you're ahead, and if he hits you, you don't lose a lot in the race, and you can jump out if you roll a good number next time and he doesn't hit you.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all right. So the couple of concepts that we've gone over. One is, and obviously we're going to make the 5 point. We're well blocked. We want to have good 6s to play. We want to, you know, what we want to do is to get past Black's prime. Black has and we saw this in the emoji section. This is kind of a hybrid situation where he's got a priming structure with the 3 points, but also something of a blitzing structure. So that's not always clear what to do with that. But you know, the key feature here is our game plan is. We have a number of game plans, racing and priming. We're ahead in the race. So we really want to probably race now, put more emphasis on racing. So yeah, stepping up is what we want to do. Now, having said that, these aren't bad either. But in the previous example, it was an error to step up, and now it's now it's the top play, although they're close. Yeah, and the key thing there was, do we have a 6 to play to get out? Do we have a plan to get out? And here, as Leslie said, if black is going to, unless black gets double ones or double fours, black is going to have to break a point to hit us or point on us. Black may hit us with an ace anyway, but there we have the better board. And if we hit them back, we're in really good shape if black hits it back.
Doesn't Michi say something about you can see daylight?
Yeah. You end up seeing daylight, or I think you call it having a good 6. Make sure you have a good 6. Right. So here, but again, our obstacle here is to get over the prime, and get out and get around, and continue the race. Okay, let's look at a couple more. So this is a tricky one.
I hit the outfield.
Yeah, so let's look at the good plays that we could do. Whether there, I see 3 that are pretty good.
There's the double hit, there's making your bar point, and there's hitting in the outfield.
Yeah, the double hit is what?
Is the blitzing play.
8 to 2, 2 to 1 is
right.
Yeah, that's the reason I say that is because that's the kind of thing that I would not think of, because usually you don't do that. But the double hit can be very strong and very right in the right circumstances. Okay, so let's look at, what's our best game plan here?
Game plan is the race.
Yeah, well, we have a couple of game plans we could. Yeah, the race is good. We're up in the race.
Prime is good too, but
prime is good, but we're down in the race. So generally, if you're up in the race, that's not definitive, but it's going to tilt. I would say that if you have a choice between priming and racing, look at the priming and either attacking or racing. Look at the race, and if either one it's going to be type of a tiebreak, you think. But we could also attacking doesn't look bad either. We do have a 3-point board, and that's not bad. We've got 10 checkers in the zone, and that's not bad. Let's look at some other things.
The butterfly.
Oh yeah, good point, Les. We've got the butterfly anchor, the 3-point anchor, which Michi spent half a book on, pretty much. And so who's saying something?
Me, you've got a spare on the 13-point, so maybe you don't want to break your butterfly right now.
Not a spare.
Spare. I'm not sure what you mean, Ann.
Well, maybe I don't either. On the 13-point, you've got 3 checkers.
Yeah. Well, so the midpoint, you've got the spare there, but there are 2 things about the midpoint. Early on, you want to get rid of, you want to put your spares there. You have too many spares at stack, so you want to unstack. On the other hand, later in the game, you want to be careful about how you use your last spare, because once you use your last spare, then you become stripped.
Well, yeah, so that's what I was saying. Oh, I see. Well,
So Gary,
why not just
go ahead, Ann.
Go ahead, Karen.
Or just take him out. 22-15.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that do for us? Let's always think about a bold safe here is helpful. So we're up in the race. Well, okay, first of all, the board strength is more important. We have a 3-point board versus a 2-point board. So we have that advantage. Now it's true that black has the better point. And so this is not quite as strong as if we had the 5-point and an extra point. But it is 3-point versus 2-point. And then racing, if you're ahead in the race, what's the best racing move here?
Hit him.
Hitting, yeah, because you go back 15 points. Now we're way up in the race.
The thing is, if you don't hit him and you do something else short of the double hit, if you make the bar point, then you're giving him all the freedom in the world to better his position.
That's true as well.
Right.
Yeah. What's Black's game plan here?
Well, he wants to set up a prime, it looks like, and
yes, yeah. Black has a priming formation. He's got a few spares out there. He's got the 5-point, starting. There's a small prime here. It's not really well developed yet, but it's potentially there. And he's behind in the race, so he's not going to race. He might attack, but out of desperation. So yeah, we can take him out, upset his game plan, send him back in the race. He can't do much of anything with a checker on the bar.
And if you do that, I mean, yes, you leave yourself open somehow, and there's double threes. You're duplicating good numbers for him. You're out there on his on that 15-point. That's a 3 from the midpoint, and 3s to hit off of his 6-point.
Yeah.
That's the last part of this that I would consider, but
that's a good point too. That those are the diversification, or I'm sorry, duplication of numbers is helpful. This 3, and look at also often when your opponent's on the bar, it's doubles that count. So if he rolls double 3s from the bar, he lands right on top of this guy and stays where he is. And so double 3s. In this position, having the 3-point is actually good because the double 3s aren't a joker for him. They're almost a joker for us because he dances. So all those things, and it's it's right by far to come out and hit. It's kind of the racing. It fits both the attacking and a racing game plan. It disrupts the opponent's game plan, and the other options are a blunder. Yeah, and this one, we have there's good rationale for an attacking game plan, but and 2 on the bar is pretty strong, but here we've left ourselves open for getting hit back, and if we get hit back, it really disrupts our game plan. So
what about the opportunity to perhaps double? If you hit him, he dances, you might have a double at that point.
That's true. You do. In fact, you probably have a double. Maybe not. You have a pretty good double, unless Black comes in an anchor. You probably have a decent double here.
Right, but if he doesn't, yeah,
and certainly if he dances, it's probably a double. So let's just to look at that.
Even if he came in with like a 5-4. Well, no, that wouldn't be good.
5. This if he dances, it's a double and a pass.
Right.
If he comes in with a 5-1, say, or 5-2.
5-2 is horrible for him.
5-2 is horrible for him. So that may be too good to double. Okay. Oh no, this is a take. Oh, okay, because he's not on the bar. Yeah. But clearly double, unless he, unless he comes in with a 5-4, maybe he makes the,
and then 5-3. What does he do with a 5-3 if he comes in? What's he going to do? He's probably going to make an anchor, I would think.
oh yes, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So now here, this is not a double.
It's not a double, but
yeah. But we're still in a pretty strong position.
Right.
60% wins, few gammons. Yeah, so the 5-4 or even the 5-3 coming in is a pretty good roll for black. But there are a lot of rolls here. Any dancing roll is a double and a pass.
Right.
And anything that doesn't anchor, it depends on what else he does. Could be a good roll.
Gary, would you go back to the original where we hit him with the 6-1, and what is the winning chances then? Yeah, to hit him.
64 to win.
Okay.
With 25% gammons. Yeah, and so you see, if you look at these, the hitting play, double hit is 60% win. So we give up a lot of wins that way, but we pick up a lot of gammons, 33. And then the priming play is still pretty good at winning, but not as great at the gammons. And this is pretty strong. This is a 5 prime. It's a broken 5 prime, but it's still pretty strong position. All right, let's. Getting late. Let's make this the last one we're going to do. Yeah. So now, same 6-1 to play, and probably the top 3 plays before are probably the top 3 plays now, because you can still do the double hit. You can come out here and hit. You can make the prime. But in this case, yeah. So here, if we hit on the 15, what's the difference now for doing that from before?
He can make a airport point and hit our man on the 22 point.
We have a lesser inner board.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at is now in the previous position, we had the 3 point.
Right.
And black didn't have the 4 point. So in the previous position, the bold safe perspective, we had
better position.
A better board. So it wasn't a lot better, but it was better. Here we clearly have the weaker board. So if you have the weaker board, you're going to want to play safer, particularly when it's the strong. This is a very strong board, the 4, 5, and 6 point. So there's that. The race too. We're behind in the race. Now, if we come out here, we'll hit it. We'll catch up and go ahead in the race. But what does being behind in the race tell us to look for? What tells us to look for priming more? It's gonna put priming ahead of other things, as opposed to just the attacking. We still have now here. We only have 9 checkers in the zone. So the double hit. Well, it puts black on the bar, and black can't do anything the next roll. We're putting our checker at risk, and we only have 9 in the zone, so we can't.
We also have an extra builder at the midpoint right now because we don't have the 3 points. So I would.
So if we make the bar point, now we haven't stripped our midpoint.
Right.
So what does that all that lead? I think bold safe tells us probably not to hit here. Checkers in the zone probably tells us, okay, probably not to double hit. So that leaves
Bar point.
Bar point.
Yeah, and that's right. And these other plays are blunders.
Very wrong.
Yeah. And again, you get to that by looking at, trying to figure out what your best game plan is. And as we've seen just from these examples, there are a lot of considerations, a lot of things to think about when you do it. So it's not a simple matter frequently. And these are, taking the time to figure out what your best game plan is, and thinking through the options will keep you from making, these are rather large blunders to make. And they will cost you over time.
Big time.
Okay, very good. So let's end it there. And we'll get back to some more of these next time.
Well done. Thank you, Gary.